You know that question. It seems so simple, so friendly, right? What's on your mind? But that question is probably one of the most powerful and carefully engineered phrases in the modern world. It's not just a prompt, it's a key designed to unlock your thoughts, your feelings, your every intention. So today, we're going to deconstruct that question. We're going to follow a single status update from the moment it pops into your head to the second it becomes a powerful, profitable piece of data that literally changes the world you see online.
I mean, just look at it. How many hundreds, maybe thousands of times have you seen this? And how many times have you actually answered it? You share a happy moment, a frustrating day, something you believe in. This one question is the engine that generates nearly all the content on the world's biggest social network. But how does it get us to open up so easily? And more importantly, what actually happens in the split second after you hit post? All right, so here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to look at the design of the question itself. Then, we'll dive into the psychology of why we're so wired to share. After that, we follow the journey of your post as it turns into a data signal, gets judged by the algorithm, and, you guessed it, makes money. And we'll wrap it all up by looking at this huge conflict, this paradox between what's good for us and what's good for the platform. Okay, first things first, the prompt. Those 4 little words. You might be surprised to learn it wasn't always this way. And the story of how it changed is basically a masterclass in psychological engineering. It was designed to completely change what kind of information we were willing to give away. So check this out. This was a huge change. Back in the early days, around 2007, the prompt was in the third person. It would literally say, "Chris is," and you'd finish the sentence. "Chris is eating a sandwich." You were reporting on what you were doing. But the shift to "what's on your mind," that was a deliberate pivot inward. It's not asking what you're doing, it's asking what you're feeling. And this wasn't just a design tweak. It was a strategic decision to harvest way richer, way more valuable data. See, knowing what you're doing is one thing, but knowing how you feel, now that's the key to predicting what you'll do next. And in the design world, this is called a soft intervention. It sounds so nice, doesn't it? Healthy self-disclosure. The framing makes it sound like sharing is a form of therapy, something that's just plain good for you. And sure, there might be some benefits, but its number one job is to keep the content flowing, endlessly. It's a brilliant way to mask a massive data collection operation behind this feel-good idea of wellness, so we actually feel good about giving the platform the one thing it needs to survive: our thoughts. Okay, so the question is a perfect little psychological hook. But why are we so eager to bite? I mean, what is it inside of us? What deep human need is being satisfied every time we answer that question? Let's dig into the psychology of it all. Well, a really fascinating study from the New York Times figured out there are basically 5 core reasons we share stuff online. We want to be helpful or funny. We want to shape how other people see us, to build our personal brand, right? We do it to stay in touch with people we care about. We use it to rally people around ideas or causes, and sometimes, it just feels plain good. And that's the genius of what's on your mind. It's a blank canvas that lets us satisfy any or all of these motivations at once. And believe it or not, this isn't some newfangled internet behavior. The philosopher Michel Foucault had a term for it ages ago: techniques of the self. For centuries, people have kept diaries and written letters to figure themselves out and to present a certain version of themselves to others. The status update is just the 21st century version of that. We're all constantly performing and refining who we are in public. But here's the crucial difference. A private diary was for you. A public status update, that's a performance for an audience sorted by an algorithm. And we get a real reward for it. It's been proven that posting about our lives makes us feel more connected. It builds up what's called bridging social capital. But here's where it gets a little tricky. Research shows that these positive feelings are often felt most strongly by people who have low self-esteem. And that creates this really powerful and kinda scary feedback loop. The people who most need that hit of connection are the ones most motivated to keep feeding the machine the data it desperately wants. All right, so we've covered the psychology, we've decided to share something, we've typed it out, and we've just hit post. In that single click, the human part of this story is over. Now the machine takes over. Your thought is officially on its way to becoming a cold, hard data point.
Now, you have to understand, a status update is totally different from a like or a share. Those are just reactions to something else. A status update is what's called a seed signal. It's a pure, original thought that you are offering up without being prompted by someone else's content. It is the cleanest, most valuable piece of information you can possibly provide because it comes straight from you. It's the raw material, the starting point for everything the AI is about to do. So what happens to that little seed signal? It gets thrown into this huge 4-step machine. First, it goes into the inventory, basically the giant pile of every single post you could possibly see. Second, the system scans it for signals. Who posted it? What's it about? Is it happy or sad? Third, it uses those signals to make predictions about you specifically. How likely are you to comment on this, to share it? And finally, all of that gets crunched into a single relevance score that decides if that post even shows up in your friends' feeds at all.
And you know, this whole ranking thing, it wasn't always so insanely complicated. The algorithm, the gatekeeper that decides who sees your thoughts, it's evolved. It used to be like a simple bouncer at a club. Now, it's a hyper-intelligent supercomputer that knows exactly what will make you tick.
Just look at how it's changed. Back around 2011, there was this thing called EdgeRank. Super simple, really. It just looked at how close you were with the person, what kind of post it was, like a photo was worth more than text, and how old it was. But by 2014, things got way more subjective. The goal became meaningful interactions. Suddenly, it wasn't about what was new, it was about what would make you react. A long comment was way more valuable than a simple like. And today it's a full-blown AI that uses thousands of signals to predict and even provoke a reaction out of you.
So how on earth does it do that? The secret sauce is a technology called natural language processing, or NLP. This is the AI that literally reads your status update. And it's not just looking for keywords. It's figuring out who you're talking about, what you're talking about, but its most important job by far is sentiment analysis. It figures out the emotional tone. Are you happy, angry, anxious, even sarcastic? The machine knows, and that knowledge is pure gold.
Which of course brings us to the money. Because that emotional data, the feeling it just pulled directly from your mind, is now a product ready to be sold. So how does your passing thought, your momentary feeling, get turned directly into dollars and cents?
Well, it breaks down like this. A huge piece of the pie, about 40%, is sentiment targeting. The system sees you're feeling stressed and boom, here's an ad for a meditation app. You post something celebratory, here's an ad for champagne. Then about 35% is interest segmentation. You mention you're going hiking and poof, you're now in the outdoorsy bucket, ready to be sold hiking boots. And the last 25% is predictive targeting. You mention a new job or a new baby, and the system knows you're in a new life stage, triggering a tidal wave of ads for things you don't even know you need yet.
And if you thought that was a lot, it gets even deeper. The things you say publicly in your status updates are now being combined with things you talk about privately in AI-powered chats on Meta's other apps. This lets them build what some sources are calling a total mind profile. Think about that. It's a combination of your public self and your private self all merged together to create a psychological model of you that is shockingly accurate, letting advertisers know what you want, maybe even before you do.
So this all leads us to one final, and maybe the most critical part of this whole thing. We know that sharing can feel good, it can connect us, but is the thing that's good for our own well-being also the thing that's good for the platform's profit? This is what we're calling the authenticity paradox.
Now, let's start with the good news, because there is some. Real, hard science from a study in Nature Communications found a direct link when we express ourselves authentically online. When who we are on the screen matches who we are in real life, we report being happier. It's measurably good for our mental health to just be ourselves.
Okay, but here's the other side of that coin. As Asa Raskin from the Center for Humane Technology points out, the business model itself is the problem. It is just flat out more profitable to show people things that get a huge reaction. And what gets the biggest reactions? Outrage, division, extreme points of view. The entire system is financially built to reward the very things that tear us apart.
And this table just lays the whole paradox out perfectly. On the one hand, you've got authentic self-expression. It makes us happier. But to the algorithm, it's often a pretty weak signal. A post about enjoying a quiet walk is nice, but it's not exactly setting the world on fire. On the other hand, you have idealized or extreme posts, that perfect vacation photo or a really angry political rant. It can actually make us feel worse, but man, it gets a ton of engagement. And because of that, it's way more valuable to the algorithm. The system's goals are fundamentally at odds with our own happiness. So let's just quickly recap the whole journey. 1. What's on your mind is not an innocent question. It's a finely tuned psychological tool. 2. The second you answer it, your thought becomes a valuable signal to be analyzed and sold.
3. The algorithm running the show doesn't care about what's good or true, it cares about what's engaging, and that's often the stuff that's divisive. Which leads to our final takeaway: there is a deep structural conflict between our well-being and the platform's profits.
And that leaves us with one final thought for you to take away. The next time you see that little white box and that blinking cursor, just remember, in this massive economy of attention, where our deepest feelings have become the raw material, your thoughts are the product. So the only question left is, what are you selling?